You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Voice of Reason. I am Ted Durden, a Southern Democrat.
And I'm Mark Reed, a West Coast Republican.
And together we are The Voice of Reason. This is a politically based show where civil discourse is the order of the day, where Mark and I believe that there are more things that unite us than there are things that divide us. Yep. So having said that, there's been a lot going on in the news recently, so I'm going to throw the ball over to Mark and let's just jump right into it.
Well, kind of an exciting thing took place. We did an interview with John Lee, the candidate for the City Council District 12 in the West San Fernando Valley, and it got to be a very ugly campaign.
A little bit.
A lot of outside money, tens of thousands of dollars were thrown in from hedge fund managers from the East Coast supporting one candidate. So it got nasty. And the city council is supposed to be a nonpartisan race. I mean, it's not supposed to be Republican or Democrat. But these backers and supporters of against John Lee really thought it would be enough just to label him a Republican. So it became such a great partisan race, and John Lee won. And
I'm actually not surprised because you and I were both there at the debate that evening with him and was it Lindsay Lundquist?
Lorraine
Lundquist. I apologize. Yes. And I said from the very beginning, John Lee has been in this district for a very long time. He has a huge footprint. He's done a lot for his constituents. 20 years. So it didn't really surprise me. I understand that Lorraine might have been new blood, but I just think that John just had too much going for him, that he was not going to be overtaken by her. So congratulations to John Lee. And hopefully, Mark, you and I, when we were talking in the green room, hopefully we'll be able to get John Lee onto the show.
He said he was going to come on to the show. I look forward to it. I went to his election night campaign party and asked him how he was feeling. So, Sam, go ahead and play the tape real quick. John, how are you feeling tonight? The next city councilman of the city of Los Angeles.
Well, not yet, but I feel good where we are. You know, we're 400 votes up after about 23,000 absentees have been counted. I think we actually did better at the polls. So it's. I think we're doing good. I'm feeling good.
Good. Good luck tonight, and I think you're going to win.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Pretty happy that night. I think he felt good. I think he reached out to the constituents, both the Democrats, the Independents, and the Republicans. He ran a good campaign.
Yes, he did.
And the district made the decision to stay Republican. And so he is the sole Republican on the Los Angeles City Council, and he has an uphill battle, and I'm behind him. I've been behind him since the beginning of his race, and I think he's going to be a good city councilman.
Now, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to segue. So we're talking about a candidate that ran in District 12, who ran a very good race, ran a clean race. He didn't get ugly. I mean, it was competitive as any political race should be. So let's move from someone who did pretty much everything right to someone who just can't seem to get it right, and that's Joe Biden. One of the Democratic presidential nominees. Now, you might think that my saying that means that I'm a Republican, but I'm not. At the very beginning, I said I'm a Southern Democrat. That just means I have a tendency to be a little bit more conservative than my other Democratic counterparts.
Take it easy on me, kid.
I'm just saying. I mean, sometimes it just seems like Joe Biden has foot and mouth disease. That's just what it seems like. I like the guy. I'm a supporter of Joe Biden. I don't know. I'm old. He's older. He just can't seem to get it right sometimes. So recently, he made a statement that made it into the news, and he started to backtrack off of it. And Mark, I'm going to let you repeat exactly what he said, because I want to make sure it's said right. So what did he say?
Well, he came out, which I don't think it was a gaffe. I think there was a lot of truth to it. He came out and said he prefers truth over facts. Now, think about that. Truth is very subjective. Facts are solid. That's it. It's the way it happened.
Absolutely.
It goes into a portion of the segue we're going to talk about also is what Dan Rathers had said.
Oh, my God.
Okay, but it goes into that because they'd rather create their own truth and not really adhere to the facts. And this is what's happening when you're watching all of the Democrats running for the presidency of the United States. They're making up their own truths. They really don't want to stick with facts because they think that to win the presidency of the United States, They have to show the constituency, the electorate, that they're the ones who can go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump on the stage and beat him. So the new tactic, I guess, of Joe Biden's crew right now is, look, we need to hide him in the closet, stop him from making these gaffes, and as long as we hide him in the closet and he stops messing up, that he will be the nominee. But the reality is very simple. I really do believe it wasn't a gaffe. I think he prefers his truth over facts. So they live in a different world. This is why we were talking a couple episodes back about the racism and weaponizing of racism.
Sure.
Are these things really racist, or are they just making it racist in order to create political, how would you say, hay over nothing?
Right.
And labeling them, because there's so many people in President Trump's inner circle and new people. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the gal, the black gal, Conway.
You're talking about, I know you're speaking about the one
Yes.
who left his presidency at the beginning of the administration?
No. She's got this whole new organization. I'll think of it in a minute. Candace Conway or something like that. I'll think of it in a minute. But
Okay.
anyways, she had the opportunity of bringing over 3 different times 400 different African-American leaders within the community. And she said flat out, look, if I felt there was a racist bone in that man's body,
Oh, right,
I wouldn't do
right.
it. Candace Conway. I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
Candace
correct. That is her name.
Candace
Yes.
Owens. Candace
Yes,
Owens.
Candace, okay.
Candace Owens. And she came out and said straight out, now, you know, like you said, you can't wash off your color. So everybody sees you for who you are.
Absolutely.
Okay, she's the same way. So she can smell racism from somebody, anybody, and just like you can pick it up pretty quick if somebody is a racist prick out there. And you will address them that way, or you'll just tolerate but never go around the person again.
And let me put it to you. Let me put it to you like this. And if my vernacular offends you, please forgive me. Okay, just because you're an asshole or a jerk doesn't mean that you're a racist.
That's right.
It just doesn't. The two are not synonymous. Nope. Now, does Donald Trump say things that are beyond the pale? Absolutely. Does he say things that are extremely offensive? Absolutely. And like I've said before, he says it unabashedly and unapologetically. But that does not necessarily mean that he's a racist. It doesn't mean that. And I'm going to go back real quick when we're talking about Joe Biden.
Right.
Okay. And what he said, and I think you're right, I think they would prefer the truth than the facts, because the facts, when presented properly, when it's portrayed and presented unaltered, there's no issue. You can't dispute it in any way, shape, or form. But truth can be bent. Truth can
That's
be
right.
based even upon a distorted set of facts. It can be.
Well,
Truth can be based on your own belief system. It makes me think of a line from one of my favorite movies starring Jack Nicholson. And it was from the movie Something's Gotta Give. And he looked at her and he says, I've always told you some version of the truth. Well, truth doesn't have any versions. The truth is just the truth. That's all it is.
Well, this is where our media is completely failing us, because the truth in their minds is what they are reporting, but they're not reporting the facts. So they come out with their truth, their version, their concept of what is taking place, which will lead us right. Let's go ahead and take on the Dan Rather's comment. The Dan Rather's comments was he would.
Oh my God.
Let's not report on what President Trump says.
Yes.
Let's report on what he's thinking. And that is not exactly what we're just talking about.
It is. It's like, I guess we're supposed to all walk around, or the news media, the journalists, they're supposed to walk around acting as if they're the amazing Kreskin, and know exactly what Donald Trump was thinking when he said something.
Exactly.
I mean that is just one of the most insane comments that I have ever heard. Now, he's kind of I wouldn't say he's a pariah at this point, but almost, where he was kicked out. He was fired from CBS because he made a made-up story, and so now his once sterling reputation,
but he was telling the truth,
has been sullied,
void of all facts.
and it's kind of like, here's what I miss. See, I miss the days of Walter Cronkite.
Yes,
I really do.
Yes.
To me, he is the epitome. He is an iconic news reporter. He is. And at the end of every broadcast, his words were very simple, and that's the way it is. And that's all it was. At that time, when the news was being presented to the public, it was just presented to the public. They weren't giving an opinion. The newscasters didn't tell the American public what to think or what they thought. They simply reported the
facts.
news and let the American public derive their own conclusion based on the news story. That's it. Nowadays, everything has a Republican tint, a Democratic slant. You know, Trump's he's a racist. He's this. He's that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I just really wish.
That's what our press is supposed to be doing, is reporting the facts.
And that's all.
Different reporters will come up with different
all.
sets of facts, and you will go to the news agency that has the main track into, how would you say, the biggest facts, right? They have more access. They have more access to somebody higher up in the administration. They have more access to people in the city government, state government. So you will gravitate towards that news agency that has the best facts and quicker. But now it's gotten to all opinionated news broadcasts.
It really has.
And subjected to what they believe is the truth.
And it's almost like what we've really done in this country. We've gone from news to infotainment. That's what we've done. And I use that word specifically because they now use news as a means of gaining your attention, entertaining you, presenting with their version of the truth that they believe best suits what they think your belief system is, as opposed to just reporting the facts. And that's all they need to do. And it's like, I'm going to go back to something that Donald Trump said a few weeks ago about Elijah Cummings when he said, go back to your rat-infested city and neighborhoods to do something about that. And again, everybody thought that was racist, and I'll tell you why they thought that. Because since time immemorial, rats have been associated with slums, with blacks, same thing with cockroaches. It's just been something that has steadily and always been associated with minorities. And the reality is, like I said at the prior show, every place in every city has rats. Just because he said that doesn't mean it was racist. It's a fact. Baltimore has rats. Baltimore has roaches. New York has rats. New York has roaches.
Beverly Hills has rats.
It doesn't mean that it was a racist comment. It's only because historically, because they have been associated with blacks, that's why some people thought that it was a racist comment, and it isn't. Pure and simple. I grew up on a farm. It had rats. Just the way it was.
I was just at my cousin's house over the weekend celebrating the passing of their father. And it's Santa Clarita, nice area, nice neighborhood. When the sun goes down, they have to bring all their bird feeders in, and you watch the rats come out. They climb up the telephone pole, they run down the wires, they jump into the trees, and they're looking for food. And this is a nice neighborhood. I have my ranch up in the mountains. We're constantly dealing with mice and rats.
Of course.
Okay, it has nothing to do, but when you have inner cities that are not being taken care of, trash collection is not on a regular basis.
Correct.
Things are just strewn about.
You're going to get rats.
You're going to get
rats.
And this is where the disease-infested communities and neighborhoods are happening, like in downtown Los Angeles. It's bad.
Right.
It's bad. This gets into a next one, but I think we're about ready to take a break to pay the bills. Is that true there, Steve?
Well, Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America, is not with us anymore, so it better be me then. Yeah, you're listening to The Voice of Reason with Ted Durden and Mark Reed. We're brought to you by churchandlaw.com. If you need any workers' compensation, employment, and labor law legal advice, check out churchandlaw.com, 818-230-3110. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by A1 Law. If you want the #1 computer management system, call 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. We're also brought to you by Honda. And now back to The Voice of Reason with Ted Durden and Mark Reed.
Now, just real quick, just want to let you know we invite and welcome any call-ins. So you can call into area code 818-570-5085. When you do call in, please give your name and where you're calling from. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, we were talking about how campaigns are run and they get nasty and they get ugly, and we're watching them get pretty nasty and ugly for the presidency of the United States right now. But I watched Joaquin Castro's doxing of the President Trump's, even though it's public information, it was the spirit behind how he did it and why he did it. Because anybody knows that you can go to the Federal Elections Committee site and you can look up anybody's donations. You can find out where they live. You can find out everything about them. But in the spirit of Joaquin Castro's doxing of them, he was inviting intimidation tactics, complete intimidation tactics of, and it's funny because a couple of the people actually donated to his campaign as well. Mm-hmm. But he was using it as an intimidation tactic to suppress the vote or suppress the contributions to the Republican or the GOP side of the aisle. What's your take on that, Ted?
I think any intimidation tactics, I don't care what your political affiliation is, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. This is a free democratic society. Everybody has the right to vote however they see fit, and they should be able to go to the polls, make donations without fear of intimidation whatsoever. It's no different when that gentleman was arrested because he threatened Ilhan Omar. I could never get her name right. And he had no business doing that either. You know, any sort of voter suppression, voter intimidation, I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're a Democrat. It has no place.
It's a nonpartisan issue.
No, it really and truly isn't. I mean, and you talk about a presidential campaign. I'm sorry. You know, the Democrats still look like a bunch of Keystone Cops whenever I see them. They really and truly do. I mean, Donald Trump sent a tweet out after one of the debates and said, they're walking me right into the White House. Because, again, they need to stop launching into personal attacks about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to be Donald Trump. He's going to say whatever he's going to say. If you don't start talking about policies that resonate with the American public, yes, he's going to get a second term. And I think they're focusing on immigration so much, I think is a really, really, really bad idea.
Well, the intimidation factors is when you sit down in a room. You know, I'm around a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats at the same time. We've got into the open discussion of, would you wear GOP clothing or Donald Trump, you know, make America great again hats or Trump shirts or anything like that? And let me tell you, you can walk out into the community and say, I'm a full-blooded, red-blooded liberal, and nobody's going to mess with you. They don't even talk to you. They just, okay, great. But if you wear anything GOP, Republican-related, or even Donald Trump-related, people are scared. They're actually scared.
Well,
you know, they get their. I saw a thing on Facebook. A guy had he had a white pickup truck. He had his heart and soul into it. It was lifted up on, you know, night tires, 6-inch lift, and so forth. And somebody had wrote "F you Trump" on it, all over it in black paint. I mean, that is beyond. But these are the things that this Joaquin Castro is actually promoting. It's like Maxine Waters. You know, don't leave them at rest in restaurants and stuff. I mean, go after them, attack them.
And that's wrong. That's wrong.
And these things are wrong because, you know, we as a Republican and as a Democrat, we get onto this show and we talk about issues.
Right.
And we go home. We're fine. We have good conversations with each other. I have several relationships of the opposing party, and I don't get so emotional or wrapped up into it. I'm going to attack you.
No.
You know, you might make me go home and have a Jack Daniels, but, you know.
Hey, there you go.
Hey. But you can probably have it together. But the truth of it is that what's happening in America today is symptomatic of Joaquin Castro, what he's doing.
And it's wrong because of the fact that, and I understand
that's real voter intimidation. Because you should be able to contribute to your candidate of your choice, whether it's the president, your local city councilman, your local state assemblyman, your local state senator, your U.S. senator, your congressman, and not fear of retaliation. But this is what's been going on, even in my past races. My opponent, I remember I was I'm not going to mention names because I don't want it to come out. I was endorsed by half of a board of directors of one of the oldest institutions of the San Fernando Valley, you know, honoring the history of the San Fernando Valley. He found out that half of the board of the directors endorsed me, and he had his office call them and say, if you don't pull your endorsements, we're going to investigate your nonprofit status and we're going after you. He threatened him, flat out threatened him.
Wow.
Which actually backfired because the other half of the board of directors came out and endorsed me, which was fantastic in itself. But these kind of intimidation, I constantly get it from people when you ask them for money. They don't want to be on the public record. They say, look, if I could give you money and not have it reported, I would give you money. But the retaliatory factor of your opponent is so high, I don't want to. And these are all business people. So when you're in business, just like when Meg Whitman ran, right? She was independent. She gave money to both sides of the aisle because it's business when you're dealing with city politics, state politics, or county politics, or even federal politics. You're going to give donations to give yourself a little bit of influence or access to get things done.
Absolutely.
But when you have one side that continually practices intimidation factors of saying you're not going to do this. Look, In-N-Out Burger came out, gave $25,000 to the GOP.
Right.
Okay, what happened? The Democrats came out and said boycott.
Which
it's ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous because, look, here's the reality.
But that's not American. That's not American values. And the Democrat Party says that they're about American values. Look, I'm a businessman. I've had my own businesses since I was 26 years old. When I'm doing or conducting business with somebody, I don't ask them, are you Republican or Democrat?
No.
I just want to know if their check is going to clear or is it going to bounce. That's all I care about.
And here's my thing. We both recognize the fact that Donald Trump is a polarizing figure. He just is, by the way he conducts himself, the way he has run this administration, and the way he has run this country. And that's fine. You don't have to agree with what he does. Hell, you don't even have to like the man. You can despise the man. But that does not give any citizen the right or the privilege to attack another citizen because of their belief in Donald Trump. They don't have that right. Because you're correct, Mark. It is ridiculous. If there is somebody walking around with a MAGA hat, it would not be unusual for them to be accosted, yelled at, pushed, physically attacked, any number of things just because they're a Trump supporter. And that is not what this America is about. It's not about that. We call ourselves a nation of tolerance. So how can we say that we're tolerant when you're attacking someone just because they have a different political belief system than you do? It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal, and it's an insult to the foundation that this country is based on, because this country was based on political freedom.
I would think if they were walking around in Texas, they'd be applauded.
You'd be really surprised. There's a lot of places, even in the state of California, you're applauded for being a President Trump supporter, because there's pockets of conservatives everywhere. When you get into the main cities, downtown Los Angeles, no, it's not good. You get into Chicago, it's not good. You get into areas of Florida, it's not good. You get into New York, it's not good.
I think it depends on the geography.
It absolutely does. You get even in the West Hills area, West San Fernando Valley area, where there's a lot of really progressive movement. There's a particular Facebook site that I'm on, and I get complimented constantly of my tolerance level. One guy actually equated me to a pincushion. He says, you are really a patient pincushion, and I have to really take my hat off to you and applaud you, even though I do not agree with your political policies and your positions. But you post on here knowing that you're going to be attacked, but yet you do it anyways. And my comments always come back and said, look, as a political figure or somebody who wants to be elected, I've been the national representative of American Indians. I've been in boardrooms. I've been everywhere.
Right.
And so I've been able to get both sides of the aisle together to get the ball moving.
Right.
And I don't fault you for it. I don't care. I want to get the job done, and that's it. So going on this Facebook site, I'm not intimidated by them. I actually learn from them. As nasty as they happen to be on occasions towards me, I learn a tremendous amount of what are their wants, what are their desires, what are their fears, what are their dislikes for what's happening. So I listen to it, because if I am blessed to become the congressman of the West San Fernando Valley, I have to represent everybody.
Absolutely.
I have to represent Republicans. I have to represent Democrats. I have to represent independents. I have to represent people who really hate the government. Okay? I cannot shove my theology down their throat, my morals down their throat. So going on to a Facebook site that is notoriously progressive and cannot stand a Republican or a conservative, it's my duty to do that. It's actually, it's my responsibility to go on there if I'm going to represent the district.
Right, it would behoove you to do so, absolutely.
Well, you have to ask questions, and you have to have the ability to be asked questions and give answers. But it's very interesting because I learned a tremendous amount. It's very interesting to learn from the millennials out there.
Right.
What are their arguments? What are their griefs? What are their concepts? Why did they like Bernie Sanders? You know, why did they like Kamala Harris? Why did they like these individuals who really appear to be a socialist? They like them because they share the same anger and frustration towards a fixed capitalistic system that seems to be fixed for the people up at the top. They call them the one percenters.
Right.
So they're angry about that. They want to see a fairer marketplace. They don't understand a lot of the concepts. We've talked about this a few times about the minimum wage.
Absolutely.
And the minimum wage, federal minimum wage is at $7.25 an hour. They want to move it up to $15 an hour, knowing from the CBO that there's going to be a $3.6 million loss in jobs across the board. It's going to price certain labor right out of the market.
Well, I can tell you right now, there's already been a casualty of that already, and I believe the city is called Emeryville, California. And in Emeryville, California, there was a business there that actually started implementing the $16 an hour minimum wage. Here's what happened. The first thing that they did was lay off staff.
Right.
The next thing they did was cut hours.
Right.
The next thing they did was to increase the price of their product, and then the next thing they did was close their doors.
Yep.
It was a trickle-down effect. It happened in less than a year. So again, it's like we've said before. When you implement a minimum wage like that at $16 an hour, you want to call it a living wage, you can call it whatever you want. The small businesses, the small to medium businesses that really run this country, they are going to be hurt so bad, and you're gonna watch unemployment go through the roof because those small to medium mom and pop companies won't be able to sustain it. They won't be able to.
Well, this is where the definition of what is the minimum wage aspect versus a living wage. Minimum wage is simply entry-level wage. It was never meant to be a living wage.
No, it wasn't.
It's your opportunity to join the workforce. It's your opportunity to get experience. It's your opportunity to get educated and how to be employed. If you jack that minimum wage up to a point to where employers are now looking for people with a bachelor's degree, and they prove it in school now rather than proving it in the workforce. They prove it at school. I went to school for 2 years solid. I got great grades. That doesn't make you a good employee.
No, it doesn't.
No, it just makes you a good student.
No, and along the same line, $16 an hour. And I'm sorry. And again, I apologize if I offend anybody. I'm gonna pay $16 an hour to somebody that's getting a basket of fries out the vat or flipping a burger. Okay, I look at value-added service. That's not a value-added service.
Right.
Now, I've got somebody repairing my car, a mechanic, an electrician, somebody that's a plumber. Okay, that's a value-added service that may be worth being paid $16 an hour. But to get me a soda, to flip a burger, get me some ketchup for my fries, I'm sorry. Ring up an order that's all computerized, so all you're literally doing is pushing a button. You don't have to know anything. Just know what button to push. You don't even have to calculate how much change to get back. Just push a button. That's not a value-added service. That's not worth $16 an hour for me. It isn't. That's ridiculous.
I take a little bit of offense to that now, boss. I started my work at Jack in the Box.
So hey, and I started at Hardee's.
At $1.25, and that was really hard work.
And I started working. I started working at 5 years old in the back of a van, rolling up newspapers, throwing them out the window for 50 cents. Okay, get in line, pal.
No, I'm just messing with you there, Ted. What I learned, though, going to work and starting at the minimum wage was very simple. I didn't like it. I wanted to add value to my employment abilities, and so I became a night manager.
Right.
And I earned a couple dollars more now.
And that's what it's about.
But
that's what it's about.
Why you can't mix up the two. It's entry-level wage and living wage. You have to work up to the living wage by educating yourself, by getting more work experience and understanding the industry that you're in.
Right.
And with that, we do know that we have to pay our bills.
Right.
So we'll be back momentarily after our ads.
Ted, I don't know where you're living, but the last plumber I contacted was $90 an hour, $16 an hour. I wish.
I hear you.
You're listening to the voice of reason.
The guy with the license like me, a C36 license, I get the $90 an hour. My guy that I have as a journeyman gets the $16 an hour, and I tell him what to do.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Ted Durden and Mark Reed. The Voice of Reason is brought to you by turchinlaw.com. If you need workers' compensation, employment, or labor law advice, check out turchinlaw.com, 818-230-3110. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by A1 Law. If you're looking for the #1 computer management system, 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. And last but not least, we have a commercial from Honda, and we'll be right back.
The power of dreams. I am the front man who drives. My power keeps me ahead in the front line. My reputation gets me on the front page. This is how I drive superiority. By being in the front row.
If you have a desire to call in and add to this conversation, please do so at 818-570-5085. I want to go right into discussing the latest news. A couple big items have come about, but one of them was Tlaib and Representative Omar were rejected their request to go to Israel. But I'm going to read something that was posted on Congressman Sherman's Facebook site in regards to this, and I'm going to read my reply, and then I want to hear your input on this one as well.
Sure. Okay.
It says, Israel is dedicated to democracy and openness. Yes, they are. It has welcomed Muslim government officials from many countries and has tried to get more to visit. It is shameful that President Trump would put coercive pressure on a small country less than 2% of our size on such an issue. Even more shameful that he would coerce an ally to thwart Congress in its performance of its constitutional duties. And even more shameful that he would deliberately undermine support for Israel amongst the large portion of the United States public for his own political gain. I'm going to comment directly on that.
Okay.
President Trump, by Bibi Netanyahu, and a large portion of the Jewish community, has found him to be one of the most supportive presidents of Israel in recent history, of moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the Golan Heights, by bringing the Muslim community in the countries together to fight the common enemy of the imams and the oligarchs, basically, of Iran,
Right.
the existential threat to the entire region out there. So my reply to him, because that was a complete political smear, absent of all fact and reality of what's there, I wrote, "There you go again, Congressman Sherman. You were spineless when the squad, Tlaib, AOC, and Omar, made several anti-Semitic statements on the world stage, and Sherman remained silent. It was a slam dunk rejecting the BDS legislation proposed by the squad, by Tlaib, just before their planned trip to Israel to organize groups in Israel to support the BDS movement, knowing they would be legally, by law in Israel, legally denied entrance to Israel based on their existing laws, Israel's existing laws. So now, as a Jew, you insult Israel for political gain. You insult the United States for political gain. But what is the worst part of this? You have publicly now supported the BDS movement by standing with the squad in their desire to organize the BDS movement in Israel. I'm truly embarrassed by Congressman Sherman's actions, because that was the whole reason for their trip to Israel, was to organize the BDS movement. The anti-Semitic behavior and attitude of the squad, as they're called, and also even of Bernie Sanders has come out and said the same thing. We need to use our money, the U.S. that gives to Israel, use our money to start holding them accountable for their racist actions in Israel. So when I see a congressman here, even though he's been my opponent 4 times in a row, when I see him come out here and make a comment like that, that is a direct insult to the United States of America. That is an actual direct insult and undermining of Israel's diplomacy and right to protect their own country as well. So for Bibi Netanyahu and Israel to deny, for a specific reason backed up by law in Israel, deny access, not because they can come to Israel and visit their family.
Sure.
You know, Tlaib can. And they don't mind that at all. But for them to come there and organize the BDS movement is a complete slam and undermining of Israel. And for Congressman Sherman to come out and say this, that you know, slamming President Trump, look, Israel is so independent that President Trump can squeeze and twist and turn, do whatever he has to. And you know what? Israel's still going to defend herself.
Right.
Israel's still going to stand up on her own 2 feet. And they know what's going on in their region. They don't want the BDS movement. What's your take on it there?
Well, my take on it is really, really, really very simple. First of all, to those who don't know, BDS stands for boycott, disenfranchise, and sanction. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Disinvest and sanctions. That's what it means. In other words, you know, boycott any businesses that do, any companies do any business with Israel. Yep. For the United States to disinvest any monies that they invest into Israeli businesses, or either here in the States or in the state of Israel, and to come up with sanctions against companies that do business with Israel.
Again, that Democrat push on using political strong-arming, on boycotting and trying to destroy a business because they support one kind of thought process in the political arena has got to be taken out, period.
And I don't agree with it. And this is why I say that. Okay, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. Your political beliefs are your political beliefs, pure and simple. Everybody knows that Tlaib and Omar have been pushing for the United States to do something to create a Palestinian homeland. That's their goal. And I'm sorry, no offense, that doesn't have anything to do with us. It really and truly doesn't. Okay, I'm sick and tired of us constantly being injected into Middle Eastern conflict. If you're doing business with Israel, we've been a staunch supporter of Israel ever since its creation. Pure and simple. There was land that was taken from surrounding countries to create a Jewish homeland. If you took a look at Israel on the map, It is amazing that they are still alive because they are surrounded by their enemies. They're the size of a postage stamp. You're really treated on a dining room table. That's how big they are in comparison. And so you have this country that has to literally fight every day for their life, for their very existence.
How many missiles are shot over the border constantly?
Against terrorist regimes that surround them. And for these American representatives to come out and try to use political strong-arming to get American citizens or to boycott businesses that do business with Israel, I'm sorry. They're losing focus of what their job is when they were brought to the House of Representatives. Focus on the business of running this country. Focus on the business of running this country. Okay, the whole boycott, disinvest, and sanction has no place. It has no place. It really and truly doesn't. Again, trying to go after somebody because their political beliefs is like you said about In and Out. I'm sure if they donated to the Trump campaign, I'm sure they probably donated and contributed to Democratic because that's what companies do. That's simply what they do. And I'm not mad at Israel for saying you're not welcome here. But let me tell you something.
No, they didn't say they weren't welcome. They're welcome to come and visit. Talib has his family there. She's welcome to come and visit her family. There's no problems at all.
But they're not welcome there because
they were rejected because
they have a political
going
agenda
there to organize the BDS movement in Israel. That's why they were rejected. Just for that concept, they were rejected,
and rightfully so.
But see, this is where it gets into individual congressmen and or women stepping on the State Department and its foreign policy. You know, Congressman Sherman just recently apologized for his comments that he made about India, you know, because he didn't check with American Indians. And he completely put his foot all the way down his throat with his actions at that point. And it's because they are trying to make a footprint for themselves in their political career. Kind of like what all the Democratic presidential candidates are doing. They're trying to say the most outrageous thing possible in order for them to get press coverage.
Yeah.
And it's really, really demeaning to America as a whole. You know, and they're trying to outdo, you know, President Trump and his, you know, bodacious comments that he puts out there and his tweets and everything else, because he just naturally gets all of the press anyways.
He does.
He can put one thing out there, hi, how you doing? Everybody would jump on him for that. You know, but this, again, where our individual congressmen and women are not attending to what they were elected to do, and what is representing the district they come from.
Yeah, and representing that district's interests.
When President Trump went after Cummings, saying, you are going after all of these national issues, why don't you clean up your own backyard first? Look at the district you come from. Look at the people that you represent. What are you coming to Washington, D.C. with and leaving that's going to embetter their lives?
Well, it's like I said, before you start talking about how dirty my house is, you damn sure better make sure that your house is white glove clean.
That's right.
Okay, spick and span, not a speck of dust. Don't come pointing fingers at me when your own house is not in order. It's out of place and it's out of line. It's out of place and it's out of line.
This, like I said, this is where I have an interest in the political arenas, because I honestly believe that our representatives should be representing their district first, their county and their state second, and then the national interest. And they should be working side by side. John Lee had a great phrase, and I liked it. And he says, we are CD 12. Every politician should come out. You know, Brad Sherman or myself, if I win the election, if I decide to dive in this next one and I win it, it's going to be about we are Congressional District 30. We are CD 30. We are not Republican. We are not Democrat. We are a community of people that have interests, and we want our interests protected. And that goes on the gauntlet of political concepts and ideals.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely. We're all just residents. That's all.
On that one, it kind of segues right into we're going to segue right into, after a commercial break here, but we're going to segue into the California Anti Semitic curriculum that's been put out there, and a big scurry. I believe it's over 80 organizations, Jewish organizations, have really sent their letters in saying this is horrific, this is horrible. A lot of individuals have done the same thing, because California is really kind of diving off the deep end with the anti-Semitic behavior and attitudes in public schools. So we'll come back to that after this short break and pay our bills.
All right.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Ted Durden and Mark Reed from LA Talk Radio, which I believe is also in Congressional District 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
The Voice of The Voice of Reason is brought to you by churchandlaw.com. If you need legal advice for workers' compensation, employment, and labor law, churchandlaw.com, 818-230-3110. Voice of Reason is also brought to you by A1 Law. If you want the #1 computer management system, 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. Voice of Reason is also brought to you by Honda. Now back to the Voice of Reason with Ted Durden and Mark Reed.
Well, California started up a new curriculum about history, but they brought in an element of the BDS movement and want to teach the school kids about the BDS movement and push them.
Well, let's frame that
The
correctly.
what movement?
Well, the BDS movement.
Okay, not BDSM.
No,
but
BDS.
BDS,
we better
boycott, disinvest, and sanction movement against Israel.
I thought you were referring to something else.
Right, but they're doing it under the umbrella of bringing ethnic history to the California curriculum. That's what it's under that umbrella, correct?
It's under that umbrella, exactly. So again, I used to teach people, or I tell people to do a little bit of homework and say, what does politicians, policy, and culture have in common? In order for a politician to create radical policy, they must change the culture.
Of course.
So it's been a movement on the progressive left side, not Democrat, but progressive left side, to take over the media industry, entertainment, radio, television, and so forth, and also education. Being California, to push a curriculum like this through, because it's now a one-party state, one-party control.
Correct.
The three individuals that created this curriculum are the ones who are pushing the BDS movement, the boycott, disinvest, and sanction movement. So they have their own selfish interest in creating or indoctrinating school children in this thought process, anti-Israel. This is what goes on in the Middle East.
Now, let me ask you a question, though.
Yes.
Okay. So that our listeners can really get a grasp of exactly what we're talking about. So we're talking about them creating a new school curriculum regarding American history.
Right.
And you indicated that the curriculum that they're introducing is anti-Semitic. So explain to our listeners exactly what curriculum are they suggesting or are they attempting to implement that makes it anti-Semitic?
Here's the headlines. You can Google this. Anybody out there, you can Google it. California introduces, this headline here is California introduces radical anti-Semitic high school curriculum. And it goes into it about, permitting a host of Israeli activists to build statewide educational curriculum that demonizes the Jewish state and is said to be fostering hatred of Jewish and Israeli American students, sources say. Already 83 pro-Israel and anti-discrimination organizations have petitioned the state's education department to reform its ethnic studies model curriculum, ESMC, to remove multiple instances of what they say is anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli bias. So it is there. If this many organizations have come out against it, it is there. We don't have the opportunity to see it. I haven't seen the curriculum. I've been reading the reports about it, and everybody is up in arms. And in fact, I honestly believe, we have the ambassador to Israel scheduled to come on the show today, Eaton Weiss. And all of a sudden, something popped up. And I think these two major things popped up. This curriculum in California came about where they had to jump on it. They had to petition the state and say, what are you doing? Because it was a surprise attack. And also the Tlaib and Omar visit that came about. And because he's the ambassador and diplomat, primary diplomat to Israel, he had to reschedule the visit here on the show. This is serious stuff. When you start indoctrinating children in school and not teaching them how to read, write, and basically become productive human beings in society, you start teaching them cultural shifts and changes to dislike people,
Okay, well,
to dislike countries.
I want to play devil's advocate. Yeah, and the reason I want to play devil's advocate is because I'm black, you're Native American.
Right.
Okay. Here's the way that I look at it. Like I said, I've Googled it. I haven't really read any specifics, so there's a lot of vagaries involved. But I trust you in what you're saying. My question is this. Native Americans, through the eyes of white Europeans who, because our history in this country is Eurocentric, and it's always through that lens. So Native Americans, by nature and through history, have not been portrayed that great. They've been portrayed as savages. There was a lot of infighting, even though there was a lot of Native Americans that made quite a few contributions to the United States that you really don't hear about.
Right.
So my question to you is, as a Native American, do you feel that the way that your people have been portrayed historically in history books, do you think that causes a hatred of Native Americans?
It creates a misconception of American Indians.
And I like that. And I like that. I like that. I think that's correct.
Misconception.
Right.
And something that I'm sure you're going to agree to.
Mm-hmm.
History is written by the conqueror.
Yeah, absolutely.
The winner.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So when you look at the era of slavery, right, where has the real information come about?
Absolutely.
You
Come
have
from the slave
many-
owner,
you have
from the
so-
power
yeah,
brokers.
You have so
Absolutely.
many misinformed people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this whole movement of let's get rid of all the statues of the South.
Right.
Because they were slave owners. No, we need to not embrace and celebrate them, but we need to know what they did, why they did it, and how do we avoid doing it in the future.
Right, what they represented.
So it's a misconception of the truths that took place. One of the big ones, you know, General Custer's last stand.
Right.
And I always
Oh,
laugh, you know,
okay.
be careful of the leader
big
you
horn.
follow.
Right.
You know, be careful of the leaders that you follow because you can follow them right to your own death.
Right.
Okay. Now, General Custer was mutilated on the battlefield. Okay, and they said that, well, American Indians were savages. They tore his eyes out, they cut his tongue out, they drove a stick through his ears from one ear to the other in his carcass. You know why they did that?
Yeah, because of what he'd done to them.
No.
Why?
They wanted him to not speak with a forked tongue on the other side. They
Really?
cleaned his ears out so he would hear better, right? They pull his eyes out so he would see better because he befriended the American Indian community and then betrayed them. So they had
that's
their
true.
beliefs, even though it seemed to be very brutal. But they had their beliefs of why they did what they did.
Okay.
It's no different than scalping. Everybody thinks that American Indians or Indians created. No, it wasn't. It was the Dutch. The Dutch, because the bounty was put on the head, they used to bring the whole body of the American Indian back. Okay, then it was too cumbersome. So the British said, well, okay, let's just chop their head off. So they chopped the head off. The English came in and said, well, that's really gruesome. Let's just go ahead and knock the cranial cap off and bring the braid of hair in.
Right.
See, American Indians did it only for one reason, because on the other side you would recognize them. That was called the redskin.
Absolutely.
You could see the redskin.
Right.
So you'd recognize your enemy on the other side. They would tear the orange, the gold patch stripe going down of command, and they'd wear it on their arms as a badge of honor. They killed one of the command.
Right, but I brought that up only because when we're talking about the anti-Semitic curriculum, it's almost like the same way
It's rewriting history
Right.
is what it's doing.
Right, because that was the same thing that happened to African Americans. You don't hear about the inventors. You don't hear about the Latimers. You don't hear about the Garrett Masons and the people.
You know invented the street signals and we use
Absolutely.
as a black man.
Yeah.
Invented.
Yeah, and just like it was Latimer that invented the carbon filament. So we have light bulbs. He worked with Bell on the phone system. You have Garrett Mason, who created what is known today as a gas mask. But the whole point being is history through the eyes of the conquerors is always going to be devoid of anything that gives any credit to any conquered people. That's not going to happen. Now,
or any shame in their drive to conquer that person.
Now, the Jews are certainly different. They're certainly different. So that's why I want to know, because I haven't seen them, and I'm counting on you. This whole BDS movement and the anti-Semitic curriculum that they're trying to set forth. I know that from what I've read, that there have been certain things that have been taken out of the history books, correct?
Right.
Okay. And what else?
I'm going to do further because this just got thrown into my lap yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm going to do even further reading on it as well. We'll touch on it a little further in the beginning segment of next week's show as well. So on that note, we wanted to wrap this up with the great Epstein, because we've talked about Epstein a couple of times now. And the great Epstein death, whether it was murder, whether it was suicide, I called this out on our show when you brought it up. I said that this is just like Heidi Fleiss. He had, as a wealthy individual in human trafficking and the sex slave, trade, that his tentacles went deep.
Oh, absolutely.
He is personal friends with two different presidents. He was a friend of one of the princes, or one of the princes in England.
Right.
And we see this individual as being somebody who can take down a whole bunch. Now, one of the gals from Vanity Fair came out and said, look, on the Epstein Island, right, on his fantasy island, or whatever he called it, he videotaped everything. Everything, because he was like J. Edgar Hoover. He wanted a list of blackmail. And so him dying in prison doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me.
I said, I told you before, we're not going to see the day of light of everything this guy knows. There's no questions about it. We're never going to see it. They're going to throw some low-lying fruit out there for us to eat up. Maybe the dying Bill Clinton will get thrown under the bus finally. Maybe Hillary will get thrown under the bus. Bill Richardson ran for president. So these are the ones that are being thrown under the bus right now as co-conspirators of this thing.
Right.
But who are the ones now that are really the influencers and people of power that are not going to be brought out? Where are we ever going to see the thousands of hours of possible tapes? Epstein had on his island, there was I'm trying to remember the artist that drew it, but had Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky's blue dress on a painting, a big painting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on his island. So you watch these things and you say, are we really going to get it? Are we really going to see the day of light of this unbelievable corruption?
I don't think so.
In the sex slave trade and human trafficking.
I don't think so. I think it ran too deep. I think it ran too deep.
A lot of people are following Cunin. I think it's Cunin or I think it's called Cunin. And they talk about how there's human sacrifices of these people, that they take kids, they get them scared to the point that their adrenaline is running full max. They kill the kid, and then they drink the adrenaline out of them, right, the blood. And the secret societies, and you hear all of these bizarre things that are going on out there.
Wow.
And I sat and talked to a gal who was involved in the pornography industry, came out of the pornography industry. There was an attempt on her life, poisoned, and she's come out straight out and said, "Look, you have no idea how bad the sex human trafficking industry is throughout the world with all of the billionaires." And you remember the movie with Liam Neeson called Taken?
Right. Yeah, Taken, right.
Remember his daughter was taken and she was going to be
right.
sold off to a prince?
Correct. Oh,
right?
yeah.
So you see that. Where did that come from? Where did that thought come from?
Oh, no, it happens
because
every day.
This stuff is going on.
So every day.
I think Epstein had his fingers in there. He knew what was happening. He knows the key players. His documentation on his island. That stuff is devastating to the world, how would you say, leadership and the corruptness that goes on. And, there's things that go on here. And one major organization in the city of Los Angeles, I won't bring it up because I don't want to be hit with libel issues. But I talked to this person, big organization, talked to this person and said, they do sex slave trade orgies and wife swapping. He goes, well, it's not illegal.
Wow.
With that, we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank everybody for letting us into your offices, into your cars, into your houses, and watching this show. And please tune in next week at 7 o'clock, and we will have a big cadre of subjects we'll discuss again as well. Ted?
Absolutely. I'm sure when we pick up next week, we're going to finish talking about the anti-Semitic curriculum in California. We just kind of touched on it right now. Again, it's been our absolute pleasure entertaining you this evening and providing you with what we think is well thought out information. And remember, ignorance prevails when rational minds sit back and do nothing.
John Lee, congratulations. Congratulations to the West San Fernando Valley. I hope it is a movement that we're going to start facing policy rather than facing party, because the West San Fernando Valley, along with the city of Los Angeles, needs real good policy to address the homeless, mental health care, drug addiction, and our streets.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
You've been listening to The Voice of Reason with Ted Durden and Mark Reed. The Voice of Reason is brought to you by churchandlaw.com. If you need legal advice regarding workers' compensation, employment, and labor law, check out churchandlaw.com, 818-230-3110. The Voice of Reason is also brought to you by A1 Law. If you want the #1 computer management system, 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached, money-back guaranteed, $1 a day. Voice of Reason is also brought to you by Honda, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, that's a wrap.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.
The power of dreams. I am the front man who drives. My power keeps me ahead in the front line. My reputation gets me on the front page. This is how I drive superiority. By being in the front row.